Welcome to Night Talks, the University of Florida College of Journalism and Communications talk show produced by students for you. I'm Genesis Trujillo, a first-year student studying journalism. And our guest today is Artie Kempner, a 12-time Emmy-winning director at Fox Sports who has directed everything from NFL, NHL, and NBA season games to Winter Olympic broadcasts. Hi Artie, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's great to be here, thanks.
First of all, welcome back to UF, where you're being inducted into the CJC Sports Ring of Honor. How did your time in Gainesville influence your career path and your approach to your work?
It's very interesting because tomorrow I'll talk about this briefly, but when I finished Joanne Smith's Law of Mass Communication, which was the hardest course I think I took in college, it was the last course to graduate, and I had promised my mom I was going to graduate college. I didn't think I'd ever come back here again. Maybe to watch football games with some friends. But with the big influence was, I think, partially playing football because I had a great coach named Dwight Adams who really taught me about accountability and responsibility and really how to make yourself better. And I think going into everything I've done over the last 40 plus years, it's always been about how do I improve, how do I get better, and how do I make the people around me better. And I learned that here at UF.
Wow, that's genuinely really inspiring. I mean, it's my first year in UF and I'm loving it so far. Hopefully I do come back for some football games, just like you said. But you've been involved in the sports world from your high school football to the Florida Gators and now assistant coaching. How does your passion for the game motivate and shape your work?
I would tell you that my passion for sports is what I would call the secret sauce in what I do and how I direct, because I look at it from the sports perspective and from the viewer perspective. I'm there to serve the viewer. I'm there to give them the best shots and the best replays, the best graphics, and to put all that together so that they are engaged and compelled to watch what we're doing. Now, it's a great thing to have a great matchup. So when I get a great matchup, I mean, it's fabulous. But when you don't have a good matchup and it's 31-10 in the third quarter and the team with 31 points has the ball, you really have to work hard to keep them engaged and compelled to watch. So my passion for the game, my passion for the nuance and what it takes to be great at being a player or being a team is something that really motivates me. And I do love all sports, but I do have this passion for football. I mean, I was a walk-on player here. When I talk about playing football here at the University of Florida, I really talk about practicing football at the University of Florida because I didn't play. I didn't play the way I'd like to have played. But you learn so much from that and from that experience and how to overcome obstacles and take on challenges. And I think that's where when I left here, the passion that I had for football and sports continued. I just was able to translate it into directing live events.
And do you find yourself in the football aspect telling your students who might not get the position they want or might not be put on the field at a certain time they want the same exact thing, the same advice that you've given?
Sure, I think life is a one unending challenge. It's just an obstacle course and you have to kind of be ready for it. And if you consider it a process, you're in a much better chance of having success than if you're trying to get from point A to point G. Right? Sometimes it is a slow process. And look, I didn't just get a job right out of college. I didn't even know what I was going to do when I got my degree. I was working for the athletic department and trying to figure out what's next. And I walked into a TV truck and I saw something that I'd never seen before, like this energy that was just something I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be a director before I actually knew who the director was. I knew I wanted to be that guy that was calling all those shots. I didn't know he was actually the director. So I think that the passion and the commitment is the key thing that has helped me and would help anybody. You know, I've been lucky along the way, but I thought my way through things. Sometimes I wasn't as patient as I should have been, but I went through the process, and the learning process has really paid dividends.
You've been a coordinating director at Fox Sports for over 30 years. What do you enjoy most about this organization and your role there?
It's a great place to work. And it started as a great place to work from day one. I came over from CBS Sports, which is also a terrific place to work. But we had two leaders, David Hill and Ed Gorin, who were just committed to making sports TV unique and different, but also keep the good stuff, not get in the way of the game, as I like to say. And we talked about how to create this. Back in the day, I was one of the first 6 people, I think, to be hired at Fox Sports. And that's just built on itself. You know, we have just really good people who really know what they're doing and are really committed to showing the viewer the best production possible. We push each other. We're teammates. We collaborate. And I think that's one of the biggest things that makes Fox Sports successful is the collaborative spirit that we have. Like, I sit in a meeting with in our NASCAR on Fox group, and there's 18 people participating actively. What we do at Fox Sports and what I think works best is empowering people, whatever their position, to doing their job and getting better and giving them a voice in the production. And I think that's truly the remarkable thing about what Fox Sports has been over the last 30 years. And it makes me excited to go to work. It really does.
Exactly, and you've worked on some of the biggest sports events in history, from the Super Bowl to the PGA and the Winter Olympics. Is there a particular moment or event that stands out as a career-defining experience for you?
I don't know if you call it career-defining, but Plexico Barris' touchdown in Super Bowl 42 when the Giants beat the Patriots. The Patriots had come in there undefeated for the season. They'd gone 16-0 and then won 2 playoff games. And they were a heavy favorite, and the Giants were a number 6 seed that had kind of come through Dallas, and they'd come through Green Bay, and they'd won a wild card game against Tampa. And then we have this game which everybody thought was going to be a Patriots blowout. And here we are with, you know, less than 2.5 minutes to go, and the Giants are driving with a chance to not only tie the game, but to win the game. And Burris catches this touchdown pass in the near side corner of the end zone, and I'm seeing it before it happens in a lot of ways. The ball goes up in the air, and I go, ready, 6, which is the camera right there, and he catches it. I go, take 6, and he's right in the camera lens. He's right there. And then there was a shot of Eli Manning, and then there was a shot of Tom Coughlin, and then showing Bill Belichick, and then showing Tom Brady, and back to Burris, and back to Eli, and all that was going on. Yeah, I guess career defining. I'll put that on tape, and I'll show that to anybody and say, I'm pretty proud of that moment. I'm pretty proud of the people that I worked with that made that moment possible.
In 1992, 1994, and 1998, you worked as a director for the Winter Olympic Games. How did that role differ from your experience in football coverage? And what ways did working on foreign ground impact your approach to the job? That's
a great question, because it's so different going from the States over to Europe to do an event. Things are done differently there. Just the culture of television was different. So I was in a unique situation because I was not just directing for CBS, but I was actually directing what's called the World Feed, part of the World Feed. So there's so many skiers coming out of the gate. They come every minute. So the course is over 2 minutes. So there's 3 different directors, because somebody has the top of the course, then the middle, then the end of the course, and then there's another director that kind of helps put it together at the end. So I was one of 4 directors working this, and it was an international crew of only French camera operators. And I can remember going to my first camera meeting, and one guy came over to me and said, I'm the only one that speaks English, so if it's okay, I'll translate. I said, okay. And I basically gave them a little bit of the speech, like I'd talk about my football with my football guys, or my basketball, or my whatever sport I'm saying. I said, hey, show me what you got. right? We've got 4 days to get ready for the Winter Olympic Games, for the downhill, the biggest event, maybe in the Olympics, besides figure skating. Show me what you can do. And like the first time out, I got a few people that were, kind of engaged more, and I directed them, not hard, but I pushed a little bit and pushed a little bit. Typically in Europe, you just show a tight shot, each camera, skier, same tight shot. Here I come, here, boom, 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 boom. And I thought, this is a beautiful mountain. You can really see things, and if you can see the perspective and the beauty at the same time, and the shots differ, it's gonna be a more engaging experience for the viewer. And the second camera meeting, 4 people actually spoke English. So I was up from 1 to 4. Interesting, right? Same people. And then after the third camera meeting, all but 1 spoke English. And at the end of the meeting, he came up to me and apologized that he didn't speak English in broken English. And I realized at that point, I've got these guys on my side. Like, we're in this. Like, they really haven't experienced this kind of crazy, passionate American guy who's like amped up all the time. Like, that's great for it, pull it out, come on, go get him, ready, 5, take 5, go, come on, 5, zoom, 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 zoom. And they enjoyed it.
Did you scare them?
I think I scare people at times with that energy that I have, but I think you work through it and you get in there and you're talking through. Hey, we're coaching, like your dad, who's a high school football coach, right?
Yes.
You coach all the time when you're directing, when you're producing, you're coaching, you're teaching, you're kind of working with people. That's such a cool thing to do. That's why I still coach high school football, because I just love that interaction, and you learn from it. Like, you get people feeding back. You can ask a kid, does that work for you? And they can say, yeah, I'm better, or no, I can't really do that right now. And it's the same thing working with adults who are doing, who are professionals. You're working to get better all the time. So I think at first the French camera crew was a little taken aback, but I would tell you that I got a lot of great hugs at the end because we worked as a team, and it was a cool thing. I loved it. I really enjoyed it.
And definitely, as the football season ends, you shift your career into NASCAR coverage. You've covered a wide range of sports, each with its own pace and unique challenges. Is there a particular sport you found the most challenging to direct?
I liked your kind of play on words there, shifted. I shifted to NASCAR, racing and golf. So let's talk about that for a second. We've got cars driving around in a circle, racing, and we've got people walking from shot to shot and other people whispering while they're doing that. How can either of those be remotely as challenging as doing a football game or a basketball game or a hockey game? It's because you have multiple fields of play.
Did you have any prior knowledge before you started covering those sports, or you just jumped right into it?
As a director, the first time I directed NASCAR was the Daytona 500 in 2001. I had done the IndyCar series. I'd done 5 races before that. I had been an associate director and a broadcast associate earlier, but I'd never really sat in a chair for that. But no, the knowledge of the game and then kind of sorting what cameras should do and how they should do it and how to put yourself in position to best take advantage of your camera positioning and framing. I think that was always a work in progress, but something that I took to pretty quickly. I mean, I directed my first show in 1987. I was just 28, and it was the US Open tennis. And it was a really weird thing. There was a rain out, and we were rained out. It was a Sunday, and it rained from like noon to 5. And I was working for CBS as an associate director. But we still had all these matches to be played, so the rain stopped and they started playing at 5 o'clock. Well, we were off the air at 6:30. So we had to go off the air, and there was no shows planned back then. It's not like it is today where there's wall-to-wall coverage of every tennis tournament, of almost every court. Back then, CBS was on the air on the weekends and nothing else happened besides that. So they decided to do a show and put it on USA Network because USA Network did the weekday shows. And at the time, one of my mentors, Frank Chirkinian, said to me, he comes back into the truck. I was cleaning up my stuff, and he said, you're going to direct the 7:30. It was already 6:45. I go, what? He goes, do you want to direct or not? I said, yeah, of course I want to direct. He goes, well, go into the USA office. They'll tell you what you're doing. And I sat down in that chair, 15 minutes to prepare, and directed my first show.
Wow.
And it was so much fun. Genesis, it was like, oh, this is what I was put here to do. This is great. And I had a blast, and the crew got me through it. The camera people got me through it. They did. They were like chiming, on the headset. Camera people don't usually talk a lot. The director's doing all the talking, which you can tell I'm good at. But they were helping me get through it. And I always remember that, and I owe such a tribute to that group that helped me get through my first show. But from that day on, that's all I wanted to do, is sit in that director's chair and call numbers out.
And since you have such a confident voice, you also voiced a car by the same name in the Disney Pixar film Cars. How did that opportunity come about?
That's a really cool deal, because after our first season of NASCAR, which, our group, we just all came together, and it was a fabulous season. We actually won the Emmy Award for Best Series in that first year, and for Best Live Event, the Daytona 500. So we came out of the box really well. And like I said before, that took a team of people. A woman from Pixar Studios reached out to me. And the funny part of it is, when she first called, I was like, listen, I'm really busy. I've just come off of 2 really hard years, because we were prepping for NASCAR and I was doing NFL. And to be honest, I was a pretty arrogant jerk.
Oh.
And I remember she was so nice, and she says, well, let's find out when you might be available. I'll call you back. And that kind of ended the conversation. And then 2 days later, my son Ethan is on the autism spectrum, and he was watching Toy Story, and he loves to watch credits. He can tell you, by the way, every character and who played them and every animator. He's got a eidetic memory. So I'm just sitting on the couch. I'm probably reading. This is before phones, so I wasn't looking at my phone. And I'm sitting there reading, and I look up, and it says, produced, directed, and created by John Lasseter. And all of a sudden I think to myself, oh my God, that woman called, and she said, hey Artie, I'm calling for John Lasseter from Pixar Studios. And all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, John Lasseter. I knew that name. Well, 5 minutes later, I was on the phone with Elise Kleidman, the woman that had called me, and I said, hey, I think I can work you into my schedule. And I maybe August 1st, would that work well? And she goes, that's great. We can definitely bring you in August 1st. I was going to call you later. I go, well, thank you so much. So that started this process of getting to know John Lasseter and his team. And what an amazing, creative, brilliant group of people. They asked me to come in and talk about racing and how we cover it and do the things we do, where we place cameras and why we place the cameras there. They were big into the why, which I am. Why do you do things? To me, that's so important. And I meet with this team of 60 people, right? And they're just asking questions, and they're great questions. And they make me even think more about how we do things. And they took my ideas, and they made much better ideas out of them. And John and I became very, very close friends, and we're still close to this day. He loved watching live television. And I remember him finishing after the second time he'd watched the whole race. He sat in the truck for the entire race. He hadn't planned on doing that, but he was kind of like, this is amazing for me to do this. He said, Artie, he goes, you just did a race that took 3.5 hours, and you did it in 3.5 hours. He goes, I'm making a film that I started working on in 2000, and it's 2004, and we're 2 years away from being finished. He goes, so my 90-minute film is going to take about 6 years to finish up and produce. What we do, and we're both called directors, is so different. And John was really generous in allowing me to do a voice. I didn't expect any of this. We came out before the Sonoma race. Pixar Studios is based in Emeryville, California, Northern California, and Sonoma is Northern California wine country. So they invited us for a tour. I had been there a few times, so we went out for the tour, and when I got there, we go into John's office, and he goes, I wrote a voice role for you. I go, John, I go, thanks, but I don't need, listen to my voice. You don't really need my voice. And he goes, no, I wrote you a role, and we're animated. We've already animated most of this, and you need to get in there and do it. And I said, okay. So I have 2 lines, and I actually have a little car that is sold on, you can buy it on eBay. That's a little Artie car. And I'm an animated character in a Disney production produced by Pixar. It was pretty cool.
Wow, and what was it like stepping into the booth as a voice actor, and what were your 2 lines?
Okay, it was a little bit daunting to put like the headset on and like stand in front of a mic and you're going, okay, how am I supposed to do this? And John gets in my ear and he goes, Artie, just think about directing, right? What are you gonna do? Picture the track. And the first thing he wanted me to do was just kind of do a setup. So it's like, ready 6, take 6. Ready 16, take 16. And go, Nelson. And that was the first line. And then the second line was, okay, he says, one of your camera operators is gonna spot the Paul Newman character, the Hudson Hornet. And you're gonna tell the announcers, who are Bob Costas and Darryl Waltrip. Their characters' name were Bob Cutlass and Darryl Cartrip. You're gonna tell them that you thought that's the Hudson Hornet. So my lines were, Nelson, is that the Hudson Hornet? Bob, Darryl, that's the Hudson Hornet. That was my line.
Oh my God.
2 takes. We did 3 more for protection.
And I have to ask, whenever you've seen Cars with your son, do you ever go, wow, that was me?
I really don't do that. So Ethan is really funny because he loves Disney. He loves Disney films. He just still loves them. And he watches them all the time, but he doesn't really watch Cars. But every once in a while, I'll say, Ethan, what's my favorite Disney film? And he'll say, Cars. And I go, why? You're in it. So yeah, I get a kick out of it. And it was really a special time to just be a part of that. And I can tell you that some of the things that they did and I watched, we kind of put into our own game plan after the fact. So the drone camera was an idea I actually had before I knew what a drone was. And they took it. There's a drone in that, you don't see it, but there's a drone, like it's just a flying camera that goes in there. And now we have flying cameras, which is pretty cool.
You founded Autism Delaware, a nonprofit that has raised over $7 million for programs, research, and support. Why is this cause important to you?
My son Ethan, who's now 30, was diagnosed with autism just after his 2nd birthday. And from that point on, his mom and I really committed to not just helping Ethan, but to figuring out ways to help the autism community. Back in 1998, it was a lot different than it is now. There were not really good programs out there. There was not a lot of advocacy, not a lot of awareness. And we were fortunate that Ethan was in a good school program. But we also knew that he was going to be an adult a lot longer than he was going to be a child. So we had to figure out a way to help the community in Delaware and generally help the autism community in its entirety if we could. So we started Autism Delaware with a group of other parents, and it was a team effort. And I was picked as the first president because I have the gift of gab. My wife at the time she was the brains behind it. She had the vision, and that vision continues today. We started out in our house, and it was just, like the parents group. And we hired an executive director 5 years later in 2002, 2003. And we started a program for one adult in 2008. And today we serve over 175 adults, which Ethan is one, in our POWER program, which is for adult services and helps them with getting jobs, job coaching, working with employers, recreational opportunities, and creating a life of empowerment for people with autism. And I'm so proud of the work that Autism Delaware has done over the years, and proud to be a part of a really big group of people that made it possible. My son is in a so much better place than I could ever have imagined 25 years ago. And so are a lot of other people with autism. But it's a work in progress, and it will always be a work in progress because a lot of people have challenges and obstacles that are really difficult to overcome. But Autism Delaware helps fill that void and fill that need. So we're going to keep working on it. But Ethan's in a great place, and when your children are in a great place, you're in a great place.
Wow, I just have to say, Congrats to you and your family for the work you've done. You guys are an inspiration to people across the nation, and I hope that your aspirations do come true for Autism Delaware.
Thank you.
What advice would you give to young students at UF who aspire to break into the world of sports broadcasting?
What I always tell students is make a plan, because you don't just send out resumes in order to get a job. I just don't think there's any potential. The percentages are very low. You've got to have a targeted approach to what you're going to do. Pick out 5 to 7 companies or jobs, areas that you want to work, and find the people that are actually in charge and try to create a connection. Find their email addresses. The great thing about social media now is that people are on social media. You can find email addresses. You do some good detective work, good searching, and make that your job, you'll find out. You'll find out about Artie Kempner. It's pretty easy. And then maybe don't bother me, but you'll start send emails and craft a really good cover email or a cover letter, and talk about not yourself that much. Talk about the person that you are actually engaging with, and tell them how their career has been incredible and how you would like to, put yourself in that position at times, and how you saw them potentially direct the Super Bowl, and I'd like to direct the Super Bowl someday, but I know there's so much hard work. I would love to have a conversation with you at some point if, when your schedule permits. I'm really passionate about working with this, and I'm sure you are still. And you write something that engages with that person. And you push through. I mean, look, you can get a job through going through the regular practices, but it's going to be a lot more difficult. Make yourself special, because you are special.
Thank you for your insight, Artie. And as an aspiring journalist, I will work on making myself more special. But in such a competitive field, it is hard. But I do look to your work as an inspiration. As the daughter of a football coach, I definitely relate with you and your sons a little bit, because, it's just the industry.
It is. And for a first time out interview, Genesis, you kicked butt. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And thank you to our viewers for joining us. Until next time, good night.